Let's face it, the war in eastern Ukraine is not going well for Kyiv. More than 10,000 people have been killed in the conflict, and more than 1 million more have been displaced. Russia has annexed Crimea and taken control of broad swaths of eastern Ukraine. But all is not lost for Kyiv. Looking at the big picture, Ukraine has many reasons to remain optimistic about its future as an independent country, even with Russian-backed separatists wreaking havoc on its territory. Here are 5 reasons why Ukraine will win the war against Russia sooner rather than later. The world is on Ukraine's side. The international community vehemently condemns Russia's actions in Ukraine and has done nothing but support Kyiv since the beginning of the war. Ukraine did not provoke this conflict, yet it has the support of its neighbors and the world's biggest superpowers. Kyiv's victory will be a triumph for democracy, not just for Ukraine. For starters, Russia's illegal annexation of Crimea did not go unnoticed. The United Nations General Assembly voted 10,011 to condemn Russia's actions there. Moscow also stands accused of orchestrating the separatist movement that began in eastern Ukraine in 2014. The UN Security Council has issued multiple resolutions condemning Russia's actions and demanding that Moscow withdraw its forces from Ukraine. The West has also taken action to punish Russia for its illegal activities in the region. In response to Moscow's annexation of Crimea, the West imposed sanctions on Russia that have hurt its economy. More help is coming from the West. Although Ukraine's government has been rightfully frustrated with the slow pace of Western help so far, Kyiv is about to receive much-needed assistance. In early June, U.S. President Donald Trump announced that he would provide Ukraine with more lethal weaponry to defend itself against Russia. The move marked a significant shift in U.S. policy and was widely seen as a break from his predecessor, Barack Obama. Under Obama, the U.S. only offered non-lethal assistance to Ukraine, such as first-aid kits, vehicles, and other supplies. The U.S. also provided training to Ukrainian soldiers, but many in Kyiv complained that Obama did not provide enough aid. Kyiv has long asked for U.S. weapons, and Trump's decision to grant that request marks a major boost for the Ukrainian military. German Chancellor Angela Merkel also recently suggested that Berlin might reconsider its policy of not supplying arms to Kyiv. Russia is losing too many soldiers. Russia maintains that it has no troops fighting in eastern Ukraine, but that claim is getting harder and harder to believe. There are now thousands of Russian soldiers fighting in eastern Ukraine, many of whom have been killed in action. And many of those Russian soldiers are dying in high numbers, which could signal that Moscow might be losing control of the war. In a report published in May, the United Nations said that it had documented 10,500 deaths in the conflict in eastern Ukraine since it began in 2014. The UN said that the majority of those killed in the war were Ukrainian soldiers, but it also said that 2,115 were Russian soldiers. That is a huge number for a conflict in which the Kremlin has only admitted to sending just over 100 military personnel as volunteers. Kyiv has a solid game plan for winning the war. Ukraine did not start the war in eastern Ukraine, and it might be easy to assume that Kyiv is fighting a losing battle. But that's not the case. Ukraine has done a good job forming a strategy for defeating the separatist rebels in eastern Ukraine. Kyiv has been slowly tightening its grip on the region, and experts say that it is only a matter of time before Ukraine wins the war against the rebels. Kyiv has been slowly retaking towns and villages in the region since the war began in 2014. Most recently, the Ukrainian military has made significant gains against the separatists, retaking the town of Avdiivka, a key industrial city that sits just north of Donetsk. Kyiv has also captured 3 strategically significant towns south of the main rebel-held city of Donetsk. Experts say that it is only a matter of time before the Ukrainian military retakes Donetsk and the rest of the region. Ukraine's economy will stay afloat. For those who think that Russian-backed rebels in eastern Ukraine are pushing Ukraine to the brink of economic collapse, think again. Ukraine's economy has been crushed by the ongoing war and the Russian-backed separatists who control parts of the country's industrial heartland, but Kyiv has shown that it knows how to weather economic storms. In fact, Ukraine's economy has been growing steadily since the war began and is expected to continue growing in the near future. Ukraine's GDP shrank by 6.8% in 2014, the year the war began, but it bounced back the following year, growing by 1.3%, and has continued growing since then. In 2017, Ukraine's GDP grew by 2.3%, and most economists expect it to continue growing in the years to come. Ukraine's economy has been hurt by the war, but it has shown that it can weather the storm. Kyiv has also received billions of dollars from the International Monetary Fund in recent years, and it will continue to receive that support as long as it follows the IMF's economic reform goals. The bottom line is that Ukraine has a lot of reasons to be optimistic about its future as an independent country. Even with Russian-backed rebels wreaking havoc on its territory, the world is on Ukraine's side, and more help is coming from the West. Russia is losing too many soldiers, and Kyiv has a solid game plan for winning the war. Ukraine's economy will stay afloat, and Kyiv will win the war against the rebels. When all is said and done, Ukraine will win the war against Russian-backed separatists sooner rather than later.